Somebody's going to have to do some editing.
Is that on the whole time?
No, I turned it off between the speakers. But yeah, if you want to heckle us, you get the prime microphone.
So hard
What did you think so far?
If you don't mind making your way back to your tables and seats.
Hello everyone, if you could find your seats, we're going to get started in a moment. That would be Pat with the whistle. Was that Pat?
That was impressive. Had I known that
When we don't have a microphone, we ask Pat to whistle. That always seems to work. So just a quick reminder to fill out your surveys. I know we've said that. We have now 3 raffles. There's an option of a Himss membership or a $100 Amazon gift card if you are already a Himss member. And then Lenovo offered a great option as well. So if you'd like to win the device you talked about, drop off your badges and your surveys on the way out. Last but not least, because we have some phenomenal speakers up here, I have the pleasure of introducing Karen Bowling, who is the CIO of Covenant Health. She's responsible for 3 acute hospitals in the region, including St. Joseph's, where she was formerly a CIO in Bangor. Karen is going to be our moderator, so let's welcome Karen. And then we have Dennis Tange. He is the CIO over at Central Maine Healthcare over in Lewiston. And Dennis has also, actually all of these, if you were here in the past, all of these guys have spoken in the past, but I think Ralph was the moderator and Karen was on the panel, so we've kind of switched it up. So Karen, I think she can reel these guys in, right? I think she can handle it. So Dennis, thank you for being here as well. Let's give Dennis a round of applause. We have Ralph Johnson from Maine Health, and he's also from Franklin. You guys know that he was up in that area, as well as Southern Maine down in Biddeford for Maine Health. And Ralph's been around for quite some time, and he's quickly finishing up his master's degree, and he is past president of New England Himss, and he's going to help us build a mentor program stronger so we could get more people in health IT, because I know you guys all need to hire some more people, right? So thanks, Ralph, for that. Welcome, Ralph. And then we have Daniel Burgess from Maine General and over in Augusta. And Danny wants to keep it simple. He's like, let's not do any fancy introductions. So we gotta love him for that. So let's give him a round of applause. You can leave it silent. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna hand over the microphone and I'm gonna let Karen start asking some questions. We're gonna make it interactive. We have some questions already teed up. At the end, we'll take more questions, okay?
Good afternoon, and thank you for the warm welcome. I trust that you can all hear me. I have a voice that projects, so we're good to go. Thanks to the panel. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first question we have for the group is to talk about telemedicine. Telemedicine is being used now more and more in the rural areas, and it's quite important for us to connect with our patients even from a distance. So I'd like to hear from the panel. What are you doing for telemedicine? Is it working? And what's exciting for you as we bring telemedicine more and more into the environment? So, Danny, you want to start?
Sure, happy to. I do wear another wig. This is not a wig, it would be the worst one on the planet, quite honestly. But I am in a rock band, so the chance to own a microphone in my hand, I'm always happy. I was thinking earlier, listening to the speakers earlier, and there were really some great stuff in terms of patient engagement and partnering in terms of our healthcare, which is absolutely critical. If we had a really good day, a really good month rather, or a really good year, and we saw our primary care provider 15 minutes a month, which would never happen. We don't have nearly enough access for every patient to see their primary care provider 15 minutes a month. But if we did that, if we ever got that really good, that'd be 0.03 roughly % of the time of our lives that we spend with our medical providers. So much happens between that 0.03% and when we see them the next time, that really mandates and dictates how well we are and how well we will be in the future. Is this cutting in and out?
I don't know why.
That's what I thought it was. I swear to God, I'm not doing this on purpose.
Does this one work? Hello? Testing. Okay. Well, why don't we have you continue, Danny?
I will, and
I'll
I'll
get
try to
the
speak
pieces.
louder too. So if I'm too loud,
That's good.
is that better? All right. So if I do get too loud, just give me the hook. I've had it before for sure. So telehealth, when you combine how little access we have available now and the fact that primary care in general is a very difficult position to recruit to and retain, the access that we feel, and when you start talking about accountable care organizations and population health management, it's critical to have that adequate access. Telehealth has a real opportunity to assist. We can expand and branch out through enabling technologies, develop stronger partnerships with the communities, with our members, and obviously with our patients. It's a critical, in my opinion, approach and investment that's required a lot of uncertainty. What works well? It's an emerging, evolving opportunity, I think, for healthcare and our society as a whole. We at Maine General are doing some of the standard things that are there. One of the major focuses, however, we're putting forth now is really the infrastructure to support decision making. First and foremost, we have adopted this brilliant approach that medical providers better be making the decisions on how we're deploying technical solutions that require or assist in medical delivery. What a novel idea. We're not going to have the IT guy figure that out. We're going to have medical professionals say, yes, this can work, no, this cannot work, and this is how it's going to help us as a medical staff member of this community deliver better care. So we have our standing steering committees and subcommittees that are very, very medical staff driven. And those decisions really ground us in terms of what's going to bring value to the patient, what's going to bring value to the medical staff, and overall improve the care of our systems. We've done telepsychiatry for a long time across our campuses. That's not unusual. Ralph mentioned earlier the tele-ICU solution that we found very good clinical value in by having intensivists being able to provide remote consults to our patients. Very unfortunate in terms of kind of the unraveling of some of the promise that was there from really from a national perspective, and some, in my opinion anyway, some pretty bad press that didn't have a lot of great data behind it, that kind of closed some of those doors that were open previously. I think that's unfortunate, because the collaborative nature and the telehealth opportunities that we have to collaborate, I think really can move the bar, and moving the bar is critical. We have an opportunity through the utilization of telemedicine, telehealth care, and technology in general, to broaden our service capacity, to reach out, to establish partnerships. Everybody has smartphones now. Almost everybody has wearables that's capturing and tracking some sort of information, right? Mine's $25. It does tell me what time it is and how many steps I take in it on a daily basis. Those opportunities to have that information to make informed decisions for our medical communities and for patients themselves, I think are the crux to moving telehealth forward. I ramble a lot on every question, so that's going to be your job to make sure that we keep this panel on track. And I will pass the semi-working microphone over to Ralph, although it looks like Melissa's going to try a second one here.
All right, so is this working okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. So Danny mentioned the EICU, and that's probably a really good example of where the struggles with telemedicine are. We had this great program in Maine where we were using intensivists to actually monitor the ICUs all around the state. We were covering, I don't know, a couple hundred beds at that point. If you go back to Leapfrog, that's one of Leapfrog's points, is that you have an intensivist covering your ICU patients. That's a nearly impossible thing to achieve from a quality goal because there aren't enough intensivists out there. We were able to get partial credit at all of our hospitals on the Leapfrog score because we had this program. The downside of it, though, was that it was costing a couple $100 a day per patient in the ICU beds, and there was no reimbursement model. And as many of us have seen, reimbursements and changes in what's happening with our finances have hit home. It was an unfortunate program that we had to cut. I think that poses one of the challenges to telemedicine and shows that we're going to have some difficulty there.
What role do you see the payers in some of that, the private, like Cignas and Aetnas and do you see them coming into that world as a way to help take care of some of those costs? I know they want to.
Well, my crystal ball is that we get, we use the example of we're going down the river with one foot in two different canoes. One is the fee-for-service model, which is what we're all relying on still, and one will be when we get paid for keeping patients healthy. And when we can turn that model or get that return on investment doing that, then the payers are going to be embracing this. They have to. But the other part of your question, Karen, is what gets you excited? So one of the things I like to think about and I look ahead to is the Internet of Things, or as Barbara Armstrong calls it, the Internet of virus opportunities. I've seen some good examples in the home health world that I'd like to see brought more into the primary care realm. A good example of that is, think about your bathroom scale that just can talk to the internet and can send your weight up to your physician's EMR. Not everybody would like that, but if you're a COPD patient, that becomes very important. COPD patients need to weigh themselves every day because if they get a rapid gain in weight, it's probably because they're building up fluids. They need to get on a diuretic and take care of that before they are in the ER or admitted to the hospital. If we could have that passive monitoring, nobody has to actually look at that weight. The EMRs can do that. And then alert somebody, a care manager or somebody else when you start seeing indicators. That's the kind of stuff in telemedicine that gets me excited.
Welcome, everybody. I think some of the things that we're doing at Central Maine are, Dr. Dave mentioned Sensio. That is essentially a pilot for us. It's going very well. Other areas that we're working on telemedicine. The easy part is getting the grants. I believe we've been very successful at getting grants, and like Danny said, you really need to make sure you have your providers engaged. And we thought we had invited the physicians engaged a number of times. The problem is keeping them engaged over a period of time. So we've gotten the grants, we've set up the carts, the telemedicine carts. Guess what they do? They sit in the corner and collect us. So and we just put those out a couple of years ago. They're still good carts, so we're trying to do a relaunch or a reboot on that effort. Or the battery ran out. Yeah. And I think the reason that folks aren't using it is it's still not easy enough. It's still a challenge to pull the cart to where you need it, to turn it on, boot it up. Nobody's babysitting those carts, so when they go to use them, either the battery's dead or something else is going on with them. So I think the easy part is getting the funding for it. We've done that a couple of times, and it seems like the carts go in the corner. So I think getting successful provider engagement is key to and hopefully it's a provider that will stay with the system for a while. We do have some turnover, and that's caused some of the issues. Providers are moving around in the industry, and that's caused some of the issue for us. So we're relaunching with provider engagement once again. So hopefully the next time you're hearing from me, we'll have some successful story to talk about in that regard.
Thank you. So let's talk about patient engagement. Patient engagement means different things to different people. So I can think of it as a quality reporting. I can think of it as regulatory. I can think of it as what do I do when I get back home. And especially now with the patient portal, where I have an opportunity to secure message my provider and see my results electronically. So let's hear about what each of your facilities are doing regarding patient engagement. And basically it's wide open. Anything you want to talk about regarding patient engagement. So Dennis, you want to start?
Sure, since I have the mic. As the CIO for Central Maine Healthcare, really my biggest area for patient engagement is working on the patient portal. My department essentially has worked with a small niche company out of Florida that allowed us to pull our EMRs together in a single view for the patient on a patient portal. They were able to get information from our various EMRs, everything from meds to lab results to communications with the providers and the provider offices. Some of the things we're doing there to improve the patient interaction is if they come in for a lab, a couple days after or within a number of days, the results are posted to the website, to their portal. They get an email notification there's something new out there for them to view to make sure that they're not having to check several times a day. We just lit up essentially or turned on inquire on your statement. You can pay an invoice right there. So that's really bringing folks to the portal. We're working on a mobile app for it. We know everybody has a cell phone or a smartphone, and that's the next thing that we like to make sure we're pushing out for folks to improve the engagement. We've got somewhere around, I believe, around 10% of our patient population using our portal. We'd like to double that over the next year, so we continue to work on enhancing it. There are lots of other things going on in the organization, but that's really something that we're working on in IT.
Thanks, sir. So patient engagement, we have staged a portal as well. We are not at 10%. Congratulations. That's an impressive number, in my opinion, and yet isn't that a bit of a sad number? We only have 10% of but it is actually. In the current state, 10% is a very good number of patients engaged with the portal. I have to back up just a bit and go back almost to the telehealth strategy, because part of our patient engagement really is how do we have a community outreach? What are we going to do, and what role can technology play in that? We have the Follow My Health portal at Maine General. We are not anywhere near 10%, as I've already established. But that does continue to grow. We continue to add both data feeds and functionalities, secure messaging, etc. We do think that is one of the tools that are out there. I mentioned earlier in the telehealth response that smartphones are almost everywhere now, and the application and the communication and the capabilities that particular environment has, and the rapid adoption by so many community members of that type of technology has real opportunity from an outreach perspective. We have yet to figure out what exactly that means from good old Augusta, Maine, and Maine General as a whole. We could create a Maine General app. Absolutely, we could. Is that going to have community impact and assist in outreaching? A lot more analysis and conversation to be done on that front. You can actually access the portal through smartphones now. We have that level of application availability. But again, with wearables and with the opportunity for a larger community presence regarding or through the use of technology and enabling that technology, I do think the patient outreach opportunity is upon us. I look at it internal to the walls as well, and it's not always IT, although I'm supposed to be focused probably exclusively on IT. My mind does tend to wander, believe it or not. I'm sure you're shocked as you listen to me ramble. We do have an opportunity through the face-to-face communications that we have to continue with expanding empowerment to our communities, engagement to our communities. And our systems and our tools, our internal tools inside the walls of the buildings when the patients do come see us, have to be functioning at peak efficiency for that to work. Not only should the patient through the portal be able to see their complete record, but our medical staff members have to continuously have all pertinent, readily available information during the discussions with our patients. That's a huge opportunity for empowerment and engagement with our patients. Now, you're going to say, well, they're already in your building, you already have an engagement, but the reality is if every decision we make is the most informed decision possible, that's only going to help in terms of the quality of care that we produce and the engagement of our patient population.
So I think of a few things, but I'll stay on the portal theme for a minute. Much to Bernie's consternation, I have two different EMRs in the hospital. I have Meditech in the hospital setting, and I've got eClinicalWorks in the practices. What that set me up for was a real dilemma with meaningful use, which was that I was going to have to give patients two portals. I was going to do to the patients the same thing I do to the doctors, and the doctors are already upset enough to have two passwords to get into two different systems. We didn't want to do that to our patients, so I had to hold back on that for a while. Because the flip side of that is I could be trying to meet the meaningful use stats, but then upsetting the patients and not getting that patient engagement. So we have to stay focused on really engaging the patient and not checking boxes or hitting. Yeah, I'm impressed with 10%. I think that's fantastic, Dennis. But you know, a lot of us were clapping when they changed the rules at the last minute. Said you had to have one patient use your portal. It has to be meaningful, or else we're not going to have those patients using those tools. When I was at Franklin, before I became the regional CIO, I was Franklin's CIO, and I was their vice president of quality. So I have a special attunement to the HCAHPS side of this question, and what a challenge that is for small hospitals, and the dilemmas we have. So HCAHPS scores now can affect how much you get reimbursed from Medicare. They're part of the value-based purchasing scores, and how happy your patients are in the hospital will reflect back in whether you get a bonus payment on your Medicare reimbursement. So what does that drive us to do? Well, patients are scoring the food lousy, so we put more salt in the food. Is that a good idea? They complain about the noise in the hall when they're staying in the hospital overnight, so we carpet the floors, and now we've got infection control risk. Is that a good idea? You know, sometimes I go back to the same thing about the portal. We focus on the numbers, we're focusing on the scores, we're not focusing on what's right for the patient. I think somehow we've got to get to that model.
Thank you. Just as a show of hands, how many have a portal, are using a portal today? So how many of you got caught like I did with a provider secure messaged me and I didn't read the message for a whole week? There we go. Yeah. So back to the self-engagement thing. So it's a role and responsibility. We have the technology. We're communicating with them. We're waiting for them to answer back. But when they do finally answer back, we're not ready to answer back. So it's a change in culture for us as well, going back to what Dr. Day was saying. It's transformation of how we're caring for ourselves and engaging ourselves. So thank you for that show of hands. All right, let's keep going. Across the systems, we're moving into new technology, and that's always occurring, no matter how big or small that we have across the systems. And so as we're moving into these new technologies, it's not just about the software, because you can put the software in, you can turn it on, and guess what? It'll fail instantly if you haven't done what? Any workflow design, right? How's it going to work? Have you communicated it? How's it changing people's work day. And so as I was also listening to earlier presentations, we're collecting data, we're analyzing data, and then what we're trying to do is transform. So let's hear from the panel about how our new systems that we're putting in place, what are we doing, not just to put the new tool in place, but to ensure its success, meaning that we are preparing ourselves with these tools to transform healthcare. So let's start with Ralph.
So I got dropped into the middle of, or into the very beginning of an Epic implementation for Maine Health at Southern Maine Healthcare. And some of you have heard me say this before, but I had asked one of my friends at Maine Med a few years ago, is Epic an adjective or a noun? And what they told me was it's a 4-letter word. It's a giant undertaking going on there. And so what we're going to be doing is bringing 2 hospital campuses and 30 odd physician practices at 42 different locations live at 4 a.m. on March 25th. You can tell I'm looking forward to this day. But you know, to speak to what Karen's talking about, part of the planning and the budget for this process is making sure that you're prepared. So 6 weeks before that date, we will be training 2,000 people in a very tight window. I have to have 27 training rooms ready to go because of there'll be 27 classes going on simultaneously to get that training accomplished and have it still fresh in everybody's mind. They'll go live, and then I will also have had to line up, either me or my successor will have had to line up 500 support people to be at the elbow. So for every 4 doctors in the hospital, we have somebody there so that when they run into a problem, there's somebody right at their elbow ready to help them. For every 4 nurses, there will be a support person who's trained and a super user and ready to help them. That's 25% of the whole staff of that organization. This is going to be a monumental undertaking. And then I think I get to rest for a couple of months, and then we'll do the same thing at Franklin. So, but it is all about the planning. And if I'm still here at this conference next year, representing Maine Health, you'll know it will.
A couple things. I'll go back to the patient portal for a sec. You know, and how we got those numbers. I didn't think of mentioning that while I was talking about it. So we really did work hard to engage the providers and the practices in that effort. We armed each practice with iPads. We trained them on how to use those, and so as patients are coming in into the practice, there is a conversation happening with every patient as they get a lab, and here's how you can access your lab. And by the way, let me show you how to do that on the iPad. So we work hard to make sure that it's part of the provider's conversation with the patient, and that's how we've gotten those numbers. So we work hard at it. We've actually modified our registration script within CERN to prompt those questions so that they're not forgetting. It's part of the conversation. We do lots of other communications. Just about every DEMC event that we've had, we have folks there working with at a booth, showing folks how to access the patient portal. So we work hard at it. We hit them with spam, so we collect their email addresses when they register, and we remind them that there is a patient portal. So we worked hard at it, and our CEO at the time put this on my head as a metric that I had to achieve. So he knew it was one way to drive it. We have worked hard on that, so it's not, it doesn't just happen. Back to the EHR implementations and the workflow, what we've done we've got a big ambulatory project going on right now, so we're replacing Centricity on our outpatient side with CERN inventory. We're about halfway through that build. We plan on going live sometime this summer. The date may move due to some issues with charge services, so we're continuing to plug away at that. We will not go live or set a solid date until our integrated testing is complete and doing well. But one of the things we've done to make sure we have the workflow engagement and the design done the right way, our healthcare system, I've got to give them credit. We raised the issue and they came up with the challenge. They modified the provider comp package so that they get a percentage of their comp is required participation in the EMR upgrade. some of, in past days, it was, you know, their customer service, their clinical metrics that they had to meet. Some of those have been backed away with some stake in the EMR upgrade. So, and we're planning on using many of them as trained trainers. So we'll train a bunch of them. They'll provide at the level support along with Cerner resources. So they're really engaged, not only in the design. So we have regular design sessions that include my staff as well as Cerner, but